Kawasie, pull it together, for real. Hello everyone, welcome to my video. My name is Kawasie and I am so excited to finally be here recording this video for all of my fine mamas and fine mamas to be. Because this is our first video, I do just want to give a little intro about myself. I am 26 years old. I am a fine mama to two. So I do have my handsome face son. He will be 15 months next month. And then I will also be welcoming my baby girl Halo next month. So I am currently 35 and a half weeks pregnant. So just give me a little grace when it comes to my breathing as well as my voice. I don't typically sound like this or breathe like this. However, I'm in the home stretch. So just give me a little grace there. And then also I do own my own jewelry company. I'm a child of God and I do come from a big family. So that's just a little bit about me. I wanted to create this channel to really just have a place of full transparency when it comes to motherhood. I'm such a private person in regards to everything else in my life. However, since becoming a mom, I'm just an open book when it comes to that. I'm so passionate about motherhood and everything that comes along with it. So I really just felt led to make this channel so that I can share my journey. And I feel like even in my short span of a year of being a mother, I have experienced a lot, and even in my pregnancy. So if me sharing my story can help anyone or bless anyone else, any mamas that are currently with child, or even, any moms who already have birthed their babies, they may have been in a similar situation as me. And if I can bless them, then I want to do that. So that's why I'm here and have started my channel. So I just feel really good about this. My heart feels so warm to be starting this and creating this safe space. And so that's why we're here. For my first video, I did want it to be my son's birth story. Of course, I will be uploading videos about the things I actually went through in his pregnancy, as well, in multiple different videos. However, I felt like I should start with his birth plan. I should start with his birth story. So let's just get started. His birth plan and his actual birth story are literally like completely different sides of the spectrum. And that's kind of what my whole main point for sharing his birth story is because it's literally the total opposite of what I planned. And I just want mamas to know that it's okay. As long as we reach our end result, which is a healthy baby, don't hold yourself to that guilt because the plan that you created was not executed. It's okay. So my original birth plan for my son, as soon as I found out I was expecting, I knew that I wanted to do a water birth. I knew that I wanted to birth him unmedicated, as well as I didn't want any students in the room. I just wanted a very mellow, just very spiritually in tune. I just imagined that as his birth. I already had imagined it. And so once I started actually doing my research, I realized because it was my first birth, I did still want it to be in a hospital setting. And so just in case, God forbid, anything happened. And once I started doing my research, the only hospital that offered water birthing was a hospital that I absolutely knew that I did not want to deliver at. That wasn't even an option. And so I did have a second choice, which I found, and they had tubs in the room, but as soon as you reached 10 centimeters, you had to get out the tub and get in the bed to push. And that was kind of my whole point of doing a water birth. I wanted to not be in your typical laying on your back position to push. So I decided not to go with that hospital either. And so went with my third choice. I still was very confident about the hospital I chose. And at that point, I knew that water birthing wouldn't be an option, but I still wanted to stick to the birth being unmedicated. And like no students, just the least, interventions as possible. So that was my plan. I'm just going to fast forward to my third trimester since it is just about his birth. So third trimester starts when you're 28 weeks. And at that point, due to decreased fetal movement, because I had an anterior placenta, which means my placenta was kind of muffling my baby. The placenta was in the front. Well, it was my baby, and it was the placenta and then my stomach. Typically, your placenta is in the back, and then there'll be the baby, and then you'll have your belly, which is why you can see like, their little feet or their little elbow when they're moving around. If your placenta is set up that way. So I was getting my NSTs, which are non-stress tests, initially for decreased fetal movement, had them twice a week, and because they're only good for 3 days. So the whole point of the non-stress test is to assess your baby's heart rate and make sure that it's responsive as it should be when there's movement. So typically how they refer to your NSTs is either you had a non-reactive or you had a reactive NST, which is passing or failing. So what they want to see is once your baby has any type of movement, their heart rate go up at least 15, I believe it's at least 15 beats. That's like the lowest. They want to at least see it get up to 15 and be able to stay there for about at least 15 seconds before it turns back to their baseline. And so if that happens within a 20-minute span multiple times, that is considered reactive and you will pass. If that does not happen, it is considered non-reactive and you fail. So what they want to see is the acceleration of their heart rate, essentially. So I say all that to say, if there's any mamas watching, that's what the NST will be like. There will be 2 bands on your stomach. One is to measure contractions, your uterus, just to make sure you're not having any active contractions, because a lot of times you'll actually be having contractions and not even know, which happened to me. I would always be having contractions, especially because, again, I'm starting these in the 3rd trimester, so my body is getting ready for labor, and I wouldn't even know sometimes, like, oh, I don't even know that I'm having a contraction. But anyways, back to explaining it. And then you'll have a second band on there, and that's the band that's actually measuring their heart rate. And so I don't know if I'll include it in this video, but I definitely have a video on NSTs and like more in depth about them, and I'll show the multiple different bands, but you can Google it and see just like how the whole setup is. So I started getting those at 28 weeks, my 3rd trimester, twice a week. My son's original due date, sorry, this is like really bothering me. I'm holding the camera because I ordered a tripod from Amazon and it didn't come in on time, but I wanted to get this video done and nothing was going to stop me. So I'm so sorry. I'm going to try to edit it and see if I can just cut the frame a little bit and you guys won't be able to tell. But if so, I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep it like as steady as possible with my hand. So I'm so sorry. But my son's original due date was January 8th. And I say that to say because on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, my office was closed, which is I actually had appointments both of those days. On those days that I had appointments, had to go into the actual hospital, which now with Halo, actually, I failed 2 times. I'm just starting those with her, and I failed 2 weeks in a row, so now I just have to go straight to the hospital to get them done. But anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. I was at the hospital, and mind you, I'm getting these due to decreased fetal movement. So my son typically would need like ice cold water to get moving. If that didn't work, we will always have to give him juice. And then, of course, they would do manual pressing like on my belly to try to get him to do some type of movement. So none of these things, when they happened at my appointment, were concerning to me. initially. So I remember my appointment. This is New Year's Eve. It's 9 o'clock. My appointment was at 9 o'clock in the morning. I remember getting up, made me some eggs. Mind you, I'm literally so tired. I'm exhausted. I didn't even do my hair. Like, I'm just like, son, let's get in here. Please do these movements and let mama go home and go back to sleep. And I had planned to do my hair that day because I turned 39 weeks the next day. I was like, so when I went in, I was 38 weeks and like 6 days. Because I was in labor for 2 full days. I had my appointment on Friday and I didn't have him until Sunday. So, I'm sorry, y'all. Bear with me. So the morning of, I got up, I made me some eggs. I remember drinking some juice. So tired from the night before because I had did like my belly casting. I already was nesting, so it really wasn't nothing to clean up. My house was clean. I just kept messing with like all of his baby stuff and just making sure everything was where I wanted it. I had all of my stuff already together. So I was just really, really exhausted from the night before, needless to say. So didn't really cook me a big breakfast. Usually I would make myself like smoothies. I didn't do that. Just the eggs. I get here. They offer me water. Of course, again, I'm not alarmed. I'm like, okay. They give me juice. Not alarmed. Then she comes in and my nurse. And I don't know. I feel like every skating ring, or at least if you were born before the 2000s, I feel like you'll know. It's like a little bubblegum packet and it'll be like one out. And when you pull it, it's fake. So when you pull it, it shocks you. So that's kind of what she came in with. It was just like a little shocker. And she was like shocking my belly, which I'm like, okay, they're getting straight to it. Like they're not going to do any, trying to manually push him. They're just going to shock him so that he gets up and moves. And so still, I'm not concerned. And then she leaves the room. She's like, okay, I'll be right back. I'm in here chilling. Like, okay, Lord, please let this hurry up because at this point, I'm tired. I'm ready to go. Not like that because, of course, I just want to make sure my baby is good. But this is not out of the ordinary for me because I know that we have to usually get him moving. And so I'm still not concerned. And then when she comes back in, she lets me know that they're actually calling for an ultrasound tech because he has had some decelerations in his heart rate. Now, if you remember, the key thing about your NST is they want to see accelerations in your heart rate. So decelerations is alarming because it lets them know that something is going on in regards to their oxygen supply that's causing their heart rate to dip. So immediately my thoughts were, it's his cord around his neck. And so I immediately said my prayers, trying to be calm. I text my baby's father as well as my mom because I always kept them updated in regards to my NSTs. And so I immediately text them. When the ultrasound tech comes, she can't necessarily see if his cord is around his neck or if it's not around his neck, but what she can see is that he didn't have enough fluid. So they measure the largest pocket of fluid in each of your 4 quadrants on the ultrasound. And I think mine was like barely 4 at that point, and it should have been well over 5 for how many weeks I was pregnant. And so at that point, she's already expressed to me that they're going to keep me and just that I'm going to have to be induced. Like, it's not a need that we need to rush you right now. He does still have fluid in there, but he doesn't have enough. Like, we do need to get you induced and get him out of you. So again, I am a child of God. I prayed. I didn't have a spirit of fear. And at this point, I'm just like, okay, it's go time. Like, I've been preparing for my battle. I've took literally birth courses, unmedicated birth courses that I've paid for. I've been practicing hypnobirthing, my comb, holding ice, which that'll all be in another video as well. But in my mind, I'm prepared. I'm prepared for this unmedicated birth, which at this point I know now they have to give me Pitocin, but I'm still I'm still keying in on no pain medicine. So I just get ready for battle, in lack of other words. And I know, okay, we're about to get this thing started. So after that, they come and get me. She starts an IV to give me some boluses, get me some fluids. And I remember my main concern was, okay, he doesn't have enough fluids. How are we going to make sure that he gets enough fluids? Like, if you're not taking me right away for C-section, which they were telling me because they were giving me fluids, he was going to be okay. I'm on an IV, I'm getting constant fluids, and he's okay. They're just monitoring him 24/7. So once I got my IV started, I can't remember for sure if they gave me Cervidil or if they gave me, what is it called? Basically an internal medicine. They do the same thing. So because I was not dilated any, my cervix was very ripened already, but I wasn't dilated. So they did give me that internally. And then after my boluses were started and I got some fluid in me, we started the Pitocin. So at this point, I'm doing good. I'm okay. I know that he's being monitored 24/7. However, here's when a change come. I was not allowed to get out of the bed. So in my mind, all of these things that I had prepared to help with my pain, I wasn't able to do. So I'm thinking I'm going to be able to get out the bed. I'm going to be able to walk around, do all of my positions, be on my birthing ball, and I wasn't. Because he needed to be monitored 24/7. I was not allowed out the bed. The only time I could get out the bed is if I had to use the restroom, which they barely wanted me to get out the bed for that. And once they decided that I had to be induced, I couldn't drink or eat anything. Mind you, I keep emphasizing this because I'm literally, y'all, 9 months pregnant at this point. I'm hungry. I was so hungry. I couldn't drink anything. I couldn't eat anything. So that was just, oh my goodness, that was torture. So, and the reason for that is because they didn't know. At the time, he was fine. He was stable. He didn't need to be taken from me right away. However, if something was to change, I would have to get rushed to a C-section. And so that's the reason why I couldn't eat or drink anything. And so that was that. In the room, time is passing. I'm doing good. I'm trying. I'm moving in the bed. So I can't walk, but, I'm trying to do some positions, some yoga positions that I was taught in my class, and just to kind of ease the pain. Because at this point, they also have put in a Foley inside of me. And so hours go by, we go to the next shift, and at this point, I'm still not dilated any, which typically with an induction, especially this being my first child, I know that it's not like right away. So, like, okay, I was expecting to have him the next day, like technically once it hit New Year's, the 1st. So, hours go. At this point, they've decided to put a double Foley in me because the first one, it didn't do anything. I've already been on Pitocin at this point for hours. I've already gotten the internal things to help dilation and ripening. And that was the thing. My cervix was very, very thin and ripe. So the contractions, the Pitocin should have helped me dilate more. So technically the Pitocin is really used for to help stimulate your uterus to start contractions. And so with that, because I was already ripe down there, the contractions should have been allowing, my baby to continue to press on my cervix, which in turn would have allowed me to dilate. So those together, just the Pitocin itself wouldn't necessarily make me dilate. That's more so just to get your uterus contracting. But those two together, I should have been able to be progressing and dilating. So that's just a little back about that. And I wasn't. So at 17 hours, at this point, my Pitocin is on high. I've literally had the single Foley bulb as well as the double Foley bulb catheter inside of me, still no dilation. And at this point, I did request the epidural. The thing about the Pitocin and those contractions, typically with, if you were to go into labor naturally, and for lack of words, I know some women don't like to say natural and unnatural, but if your body would have started labor on its own, those contractions build up and you get a break. So you may start, your contractions are 10 minutes apart. Okay. They may get to 7 minutes apart, then they may get to 4 minutes. Like, you're building up and you have a break between them. The Pitocin, because it is just a stimulator, there's no break between the contractions. They're just like contraction, contraction, contraction. And your uterus doesn't have time to, well, not that it doesn't have time, but because it's the medication, it never fully rests. So it's always a point that is contraction. It never fully goes back and completely rests. So because of that, I needed some pain medicine. I needed it. It was completely not in my birth plan. It was something I had been against as a child. I also have back problems, so I always said, like, I would never get an epidural, I wouldn't get it. And then also just how I wanted to birth my baby. And my mom actually didn't have an epidural with me. Now, it wasn't by her choice. I was just coming too fast and she couldn't get one. But she's always told us, like, the differences between my older sister and me, and just like how she was more calm and relaxed. And like when I came out, I was so alert, and just because she didn't have an epidural with me. So all of that, I love that. I wanted that for my baby, but I am here to tell my mamas to be that it's okay if that didn't happen. If you are led down the path where you need that epidural to continue on your labor, it's okay, and don't feel guilty for needing that. I feel like if I was dilating, then I probably could have held off and actually went through with it. But at 17 hours, you're still telling me I'm not dilated any. Give me the epidural. Please. Please come in here and give me this epidural right now. So I just wanted to put that in there. That is really bothering me. Sorry. But so I just wanted to say that piece. Also, do not guilt yourself. I know it's easier said than done, and it's taken me time to get here as well, but I just really want to share that with my mamas to be, that it's okay. It's literally okay, and your baby is still gonna come out, be so beautiful, be so healthy. Like, it's okay. So I decided to get the epidural. I got the epidural, and that did allow me to rest some, just because at that point my body could relax a little more. The contractions, of course, at that point I'm still having them, but I'm not feeling the sensation of having them as much. It is very lowered. Like, I wouldn't say it was taken away at all, but that epidural definitely made it manageable and made me be able to just sit and, embrace them. So after that, hours again, at this point, it's New Year's. Like, I've celebrated. We done popped our little fake bottles in the hospital, and it's New Year's Day. So I'm sorry. I'm having like a mind blank. So it's New Year's. More time goes on because it was like the same thing. Like, at this point, they also have asked me, can students come in, because they had to call residents and they're calling doctors, because at this point my outside is still not dilating, and they're just not understanding why, because when they're inserting their hands into me, I am dilated, like, which is a little confusing, which is why they ask if the students come, because it's something that they don't see often, and they couldn't really understand why I was dilating on the inside, but it was not reflecting that on the outside. and they could feel his head. It was right there. Now, the thing about his head is they never knew technically if he was sunny side up or not, because they couldn't understand what part of his head they were feeling, which is a little weird because my baby had hair. It's not like he came out bald where it's like you wouldn't know if you were touching his forehead or the back of his head, but they didn't know what area of his head that they were feeling. And so they didn't know if that was the reason as well, but they're like, his head is right here. It's been right here, but we don't know what we're feeling. And so that was a lot. That was a lot of trauma. Well, let me not say trauma, but it was just a lot that they had to continue to check me for. And I do have the epidural still, but at this point, I'm feeling it. So I did also request, I feel like I keep saying also, and I'm sorry y'all, but I did also, look, see, oh my goodness. I requested for the anesthesiologist to come back down because at this point, I started to feel like my left hip was like being crushed. And that's kind of like the only way I can explain it. Horrible, terrible, excruciating pain. Like the epidural I had, my legs were still numb. However, it just started to feel like my left hip was being crushed. As a child, I told you guys I did have also back issues, but my hips are unleveled. So I've known this since a child. Went to like physical therapy for it, did plenty of chiropractor sessions for it. So this is something that I've known about myself, and it's just an anatomy makeup of my body. But I say this to say my right hip is typically the hip that gives me issues. So for it to be my left hip, I was really concerned. Like I felt like maybe I was going to be paralyzed. Like I didn't know. It was just excruciating. So when she came back down, the anesthesiologist who does the epidurals, because I'm like, maybe the epidural is out of place. Like, I'm not sure. And she checked it. It was still in the correct location. And what she explained to me was that a lot of times the epidural is not going to have any effect on like nerve pain or nerve issues. So it helped the other quote unquote pain, but because my hip was like a nerve issue, it wasn't going to help that. I'm like, okay. So she did give me another round of bolus of the epidural, but again, it's not taking the pain away from that hip because it's a situation of nerves. So I pressed on as long as I could. I remember talking to my doctor, and I love her for this because she knew how bad that I wanted to stick with my birth plan. You know, I was very vocal. And that's another thing, mamas. Definitely be vocal about your birth plan. No matter if you're a first time mom, second time, you know, be vocal and make sure everyone in that room knows what your plan is. Because in any situation where you're unable to speak for yourself, you want somebody to make sure your wishes are known. And so I think that's key. Sorry. So in this case, Kawasie, pull it together, for real. I'm sorry. So in this case, I talked to her. I told her, okay, like, I can do it. Like, I can do it. I'm going to stick it out, but only for so long. So they asked me, okay, like, let's try the balloon again. They wanted to do the double catheter balloon again. And I'm like, okay, I can do it. And I'm like, I got 8 more hours in me. Like, 8 more hours. Because when I talk to her, they do shift changes at like 7. Between 6 and 7, they'll do like their shift changes. And I just remember saying like 8 hours. I just picked the number and I'm like, I can do it for 8 hours, Kawasie. If we see some progress, all right, I'm gonna stick it out. But if not, we have to move forward with the C-section because I'm just in excruciating pain at this point. And so we labored on. I'm literally flipping every 20 minutes, side to side, every 20 minutes, like We were trying so many different things, and honestly, none of them worked. So I did finally request a C-section, and I was at peace with it. I was okay. Honestly, I felt better about it because looking back, I wouldn't have allowed myself to labor that long anyway, knowing that you're telling me you have to induce me because my baby doesn't have enough fluid. But here we are 2 days later and I'm still laboring. And I do understand that they told me they were giving me fluids and, we were monitoring him 24/7. However, just looking back now, I would have requested this initially rather than laboring for 46 hours, 2 full days. And, so surgery, because I already had epidural, they didn't have to give me like a spinal tap or anything like that. I already had one placed. When I got back there, I was taken back by myself initially. My poor mom, bless her heart, she was crying. I'm like, I felt good. Like, I felt happy because my son was about to come out and I'm going to know that he's safe and he's okay. So I wasn't concerned about me. I wasn't concerned about that C-section. I'm like, let's go. Like, as I said before, in my mind, I was preparing for battle. Like, I knew birth is not easy. So I've been preparing my mind for battle this whole pregnancy. So this is just another step. We're closer to the end result. And they rolled me back there. My boyfriend, my child's father, he gets dressed and everything, and he comes back. I do remember I could feel the first incision. So the surgeon started to cut me. I could feel that. So mamas, if you do find yourself in a predicament where you are getting a C-section, tugging and pressure is normal. You feeling someone cutting you is not normal. So be very vocal about that, which I was. And then they had to stop, press some more bolus for the epidural. And then she did continue to cut. And actually, I'll upload pictures in my next video that talks about the actual C-section and like more details about it and like the necessities and stuff you need for it. But you can like see on mine where she started the incision, which I could feel, and then you can see where she went in with her other clean incision after the fact. So that's just a little thing that I wanted to include because, like I said, pressure and tugging is normal. It's very uncomfortable, but that's not alarming. What's alarming is if you can actually feel the sharpness and someone literally cutting you. So that is the start of the C-section. My son did use the restroom. My son did use the restroom while he was inside of me. And so when he came out, he was not crying. They needed to suction him, suction like his lungs out and stuff. And then he did finally cry and make little noises. So I just remember tears screaming, rolling down my eyes, streaming down my eyes. And when he first came out, his father, he was like, oh my goodness, he looks just like Kaylin. Like, that was his first words. Like, oh my goodness, he looks just like Kaylin. And Kaylin is my baby sister who is in heaven. So it was just knowing your baby is out and knowing your baby is safe is just a feeling that it's unexplainable until you actually go through that. And then just to have him say like, oh my goodness, he looks just like Kaylin. And, she's just one of my angels that protect me. And I just felt a sense of peace in there. So not saying, let me back up. I do want to make it clear that a C-section, there's a lot of lights in there. There's a lot of noise. Like, they had to bring extra blood in. They didn't know if I was going to hemorrhage because I have low platelets when I'm pregnant. So not saying that I wasn't aware of everything else that was going on, but you just have to focus on something and allow that to bring you peace in the midst of it. So for my moms who are going through, it's okay if you're nervous. It's okay if you're scared. It's okay if everything is going on around you and you feel like you have no control, but just hone in on something. And for me, it was knowing that my baby is about to be here and be okay, and just allow that to give you peace in that moment so that you can stay calm and so that everything can run smoothly. So there's that. Afterwards, I was able to have him directly placed on top of me. We were able to nurse and do our skin to skin bonding for an hour, which was so beautiful. I know that not all hospitals allow that. Some hospitals make the mom recover, if you will, by herself. So if you do definitely want that bonding hour, I would definitely be vocal about that. Also kept my placenta. So mamas, that is an option. Even if you're getting a C-section, you can definitely still keep your placenta. You just need to make it known. I know I keep speaking about being vocal and making things known, and it's just because it's so real. Like, these options that you have, you may think that, you don't have them, or, oh, my hospital doesn't offer this, because they're not going to offer it to you. So I just want you to be very vocal in anything that you wish or you want done. I also delayed his cord clamping. And so that's another option. Just because you're getting a C-section doesn't mean that they can't delay cord clamping. So all of that was in my birth plan. And so that was able to be executed, and I was very happy about that. I kept my placenta because I encapsulated it, which again will be in another video, but I highly, highly suggest my mamas to encapsulate your placentas. I really do. But again, that's a whole nother video. I won't even get into all of that, but I just want you to know that if you do have a vaginal birth, you can keep your placenta, and if you have a C-section birth, you can keep your placenta, as long as, of course, you're not in a situation where there's like placenta abruption or anything of that nature. I did stay in the hospital for a week, me and the baby. 2 of the days out of the week were the actual laboring process, and then after he was born, we stayed an additional 5 days. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Stayed an additional 5 days. So we were there, and it's okay. Everything worked out. My baby was with me the whole time. He didn't go to the nursery. Only time is like when the pediatrician needed to check him and assess him. But aside from that, he stayed with me in the room the whole time, and everything worked out as it should have. I won't say that my birth wasn't traumatic for me. In the moment, I found peace. Like I said, just honing in on something. I definitely found peace in the moment. However, would I say that it wasn't traumatizing? No, after the fact, I was traumatized by just everything that happened. However, what I wanted to make stand out even in this video is nothing went as I planned, literally, aside from me being able to keep my placenta and, me having delayed cord clamping and him being placed on top of me. Aside from that, everything was completely the things that I said I didn't want. But I came out on the other side with a healthy baby and with my life as well. I feel like people don't talk about it enough, but childbirth is not a walk in the park, no matter if it's a C-section or a vaginal birth. There's so many things that can happen. So just to know that we made it on the other side, and I have his life, I have my life, that overshadowed any of the trauma or any of, the experience that I would take away. So I am very, very thankful that we had the outcome that we did. And even though getting to that outcome was nothing that I planned, we still came out with a good outcome. And I guess I keep saying the same thing over and over again, because I just want my mamas who are watching this mamas to be who are watching this to just know that it's okay. Like, you go through and feel your emotions. And I'm not saying, don't feel your emotions. I'm not saying just say, oh, it's okay, I have a healthy baby, everything's fine, I'm not traumatized. No, feel that. If you are traumatized by your birth, or if you are sad that things didn't go your way, but I just don't want you to capitalize and guilt off of that. So I hope that this came together good. I feel like at the end I start rambling a little bit, but the key thing in me sharing my story is just that I came in with a plan, and unfortunately nothing in the plan was done. Everything the opposite was done. However, I still ended up with my baby, and it's okay. And I just don't want any mamas to feel any guilt if you come in with a plan and it doesn't go that way. Don't feel like you failed yourself and don't feel like you failed your baby. Because if the plan changed, that means it needed to for the safety of you and your baby. So that's really just what I wanted to share and what I wanted to say. And congratulations to all my fine mamas watching this who are expecting, and to my mamas who are watching this who already have their babies. Thank you for watching, and I'm so excited to share more of my journey with you. And yeah, so please like, share, and comment. If you have any things that you want me to hit on specifically, definitely leave a comment. If you have any questions, feel free to write me or DM me on Instagram. And yes, I'm just so excited to be starting this channel, and I just can't wait to continue on and just have this safe space for all my fine mamas. So thank you again so much. I'm so happy to get this video done, and I'll see you in the next one.